Breaking news out of Auburn. It is official. Hugh Freeze has been fired. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into a live edition of Locked On SEC, reacting to the news of Hugh Freeze officially fired as head coach at Auburn. This is becoming a weekly occurrence here, and doing a live show on Locked On SEC, reacting to a firing of a head coach in the SEC. We started with Sam Pittman. Then we had Billy Napier at Florida. The last week at this time, we were doing a live show as Brian Kelly was fired at LSU, and now here we are. Hugh Freeze fired at Auburn. I made such a big deal out of being, when we were at SEC Media Days this year, and kind of an underrated storyline, talking with people there. I was like, hey, guys, do you realize the SEC brought back every coach from last year? How crazy is that? Not one coach was changed. Not one coach was fired or hired away or whatever. We literally brought back every SEC head coach that was at 2024 SEC Media Days was at 2025 SEC Media Days. That will not be the case in 2026. I mean, we're losing a quarter of the conference, and there could be more, Mark Stoops and others. But let's get to the news. And by the way, if you guys want to comment, feel free. We'll work those in as well. But Hugh Freeze officially fired over at Auburn. We had heard some rumblings a couple hours ago that this was probably going to happen, and we had people like Cole Kublik tweeted, "That's all, folks," and stuff like that. So we kind of knew that this was coming. We were just waiting for the official word, and just moments ago, the official word came out. Pete Thamel reporting, sources, Auburn has fired head coach Hugh Freeze. He has gone 6-16 over his 3 seasons and 15-19 overall after losing to Kentucky last night to fall to 4-5. Auburn is in danger of having a losing record for the 3rd straight year. So you get why it was made, needed to be done. 10-3 loss to Kentucky. I mean, absolutely an atrocious game and performance, but hey, it had to be done. And now, look, this is 2 hires now, and I talked about this earlier on our reaction show, but 2 hires in the SEC that you never know. You never know when they're made, but I thought Brian Kelly hired at LSU was going to be a hit. Why? Because the 3 previous coaches had all won championships there, national championships, and Brian Kelly was a winner everywhere he had been. All his stops, he won at a high level. Hugh Freeze was a winner. I mean, 10-2 at Arkansas State, then goes on to Auburn, where he had, again, maybe the overall record wasn't as great, but a 9-win season and a 10-win season, won a Sugar Bowl there at Ole Miss. And then Liberty, 3 seasons there, 8 wins or better every year, including a 10-1 season. I just thought coming to Auburn, Hugh Freeze was going to work. He was this offensive guru that had great offenses, great quarterbacks, from Malik Willis to Bo Wallace to Chad Kelly. I mean, the list goes on and on of all the different quarterbacks he had and all those different stops. It just never happened at Auburn. And, when you start with, the Peyton Thorne thing, where he went out and got him from Michigan State and said, oh, this is the best guy we can do. And then they bring him back last year and say, yeah, now we're going to double down. This is the best guy we can get. And then this offseason to go pay a fortune to go get Jackson Arnold. And that turned out to be a dud. You bring in Ashton Daniels. That is kind of a dud so far. And Deuce Knight, the freshman quarterback, we haven't even gotten to see yet. So that's kind of where we are. As Ross Dellinger reports, DJ Durkin will take over as the interim. No surprise there. I think we all thought that was going to be the case. And as Dellinger reports as well, Auburn owes Freeze more than $15 million, a figure that increases this year's total buyout figure of the 11 fired FBS coaches to an industry record of $182 million. Again, I think that's what Jeff Landry, the governor of Louisiana, for all the heat he got this past week, was making a great point. We need to start rethinking, schools need to start rethinking how they do these contracts. They should be more incentive laden. It should be more, hey, you get more millions as you win, not you get $100 million up front, and then if you suck, there's nothing you can do about it. Buy me out. This is where it kind of sucks. But at least for Auburn, all things considered, $15 million to go away is not on the same radar as what Brian Kelly got and James Franklin got in their massive buyouts. But, there's plenty to discuss here. Where does Auburn go? All that kind of stuff. This was the 34th game for Hugh Freeze as Auburn's head coach, one in which his offense did not score a single touchdown against the second worst defense in the SEC last night. And Hugh Freeze said after the game he wished he could ask for more patience. I'm sorry. Patience runs out. Patience wears thin. Patience is something for doctors in the waiting room, not for Auburn fans writing big checks and expecting you to win at a high level. So that is where we are, 15-19 overall as Auburn head coach. His best season, sub 500 in all 3 seasons. 6-7 his first year, 5-7 in year 2, 4-5 this year. He finishes 15-19, an absolutely atrocious 3-year run for Auburn and their run of not being able to make a bowl game and underachieving. I mean, it's like you thought Brian Harsin was bad. It got worse. This was even worse. So let's get to some of you guys and what you were saying. About time, War Damn Eagle. That game last night was pathetic. I agree. Of course, we're going to get some other SEC fans jumping in here. It's not all going to be just Auburn fans, but Lance says, no, I loved him there. Shaking my head. Chris says they should have made him finish the year. That's the funny part is when he was 0-3 in his time against Diego Pavia. So it would have been fun to see if Pavia could have gotten another win against him. Let's see. He hasn't improved at all. He can't call any offense plays to save his life. That's what's crazy is like the offense was so bad for Auburn. How was it so bad? It's like you're supposed to be this offensive guru. Let's see what some of you other guys were thinking. Carla says, knew it was coming. What a year for coaches. College football landscape is definitely changing. DeQuan says, thank God he's fired. Chris says, funny thing is, every time somebody tried to say anything about Hugh Freeze, you were just called a hater for it. LOL. Yeah, I mean, again, like I put me in the day he was hired, I said, that's a great hire for Auburn. You just thought it was going to work. And again, like in hindsight, you almost wonder what would have happened. There was so much push, remember, for Cadillac Williams to get the interim job. And Auburn played so much more inspired and that, the Jordan hair was rocking and all this stuff. You almost wonder what would have happened if they had given Cadillac a run as the head coach. Freeze had it made, he thought. Ding dong, Freeze is dead. Now I think they should start Deuce Knight getting ready for next season. I said that this past week when they went to Antonio, what was the kid's name? Antonio Daniels, whatever the Stanford kid. He stinks. No offense. They kept showing his parents in the stands. I felt bad for him. Like, he's not good. Stop going to his parents. It's bad. Fans were booing last night after the game. He should have to pay Auburn back money. That's another part too. Remember when they were talking about, when we were talking about legalizing NIL and all this, and it's like, they were like, oh, if a kid gets $400,000 up front and then he leaves, he should have to pay that money back. Why don't we say that with the coaches? Why don't we say that with, you didn't earn your contract. You got to pay some of this money back. Why do I have to buy you? Why do I have to pay you to go away? It should be you pay us, not living up to the contract. I hope Tennessee hires DJ Durkin to be their DC and get rid of Banks. I've seen some Tennessee fans saying that about DJ Durkin, and could Durkin be a DC at another school next year, perhaps in the SEC or elsewhere. We will see. But let me get to some of these stories here. So on 3, they have compiled Pete Nakos, Chris Lowe, and Brett McMurphy all coming together to confirm the news. Hugh Freeze in 3rd season at the helm at Auburn. DJ Durkin will take over as the interim for the rest of the year. Auburn began the season with 3 straight wins, including a win at Baylor in the season opener. There was reason for optimism at that point. It was like, wow, okay, Baylor, maybe not going to be the best team in the Big 12, but a pretty good team. Like, that was the thought, was, okay, that's a nice road opening win to start your season. And then it kind of took a turn in week 4. They have the 24-17 loss to Oklahoma. And yes, there were some bad calls in that one. The play where, the deception play where they had to act like a guy was leaving the field and he stayed on and he was wide open for the touchdown, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, Hugh made a big stink of it. It almost started to become, you weren't even paying attention to the losses for Auburn because you were just so upset over, bad referees, bad umpiring and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, and then that was amidst the 4 straight losses. You lose 16-10 at A&M, where your defense played great, shutting down Marcel Reed and keeping A&M out of the end zone mostly, but you had no offense to speak of, and you were getting sacked left and right. Then the home game against Georgia, where you have the goal line, should have been a touchdown, but the ball came out, it's a fumble, and then you didn't score another point the rest of the game. You lose that one 20-10. Then you had the Missouri double overtime game 2 weeks ago where you were right there, you had a chance, and you lose in double overtime. So I get it. Hugh Freeze kept saying, we're close. That's year one, maybe year two, we're close. Year three, you don't get to say we're close anymore. Like, this was, the wheels were coming off here. You were supposed to take that major leap forward this year. All the money that the fans invested in the program. That's the tough part too. When you talk about LSU had the number one portal class under Brian Kelly. Auburn had all these top 10 recruiting classes. Cam Coleman on a big NIL deal. Jackson Arnold on a big NIL deal. You invested, the fans did everything they were supposed to do. They invested in the resources to give you what you needed, and you failed. That's why Brian Kelly's unemployed today. That's why Hugh Freeze is unemployed today, because they didn't live up to their end of the bargain and do what they were supposed to do with all the resources given. Like I said, don't begrudge the fans at all. They did what they were supposed to do. Yeah, the contracts are not written that way. I know they're not written that way. It's just, you wish, like, in hindsight, why are we paying these coaches $18 million, $20 million, $50 million to go away? It should be, get some kind of return on our investment here. DJ might be a good head coach at Auburn. Yeah, look, times have changed a little bit in college football. A few interims that got the job, like Dabo Swinney got the job at Clemson. Ed Ogeron got the job at LSU as an interim. Like, there have been some guys that have been that guy, and it's worked out. I get you want to go get the big hot names, and yes, if you're Auburn, you want to call Lane Kiffin, you want to call this guy and that guy. I just think if you got a guy who's an interim who wasn't the problem, like for instance at LSU, it's Frank Wilson, considered one of the best recruiters in the country. If Frank Wilson does good and his supporting staff looks good with LSU the last couple weeks, Frank will get a look. And the same thing with DJ Durkin here. Best part of Auburn this year has been the defense. So DJ's not the problem. But could a case be made here if Auburn plays really well down the stretch, win some of these games, and DJ Durkin, you go, holy crap, DJ Durkin might deserve a look at this job. You can make a case where he goes out and spend, like, you don't have to pay him a ton. Maybe you pay DJ Durkin $5, $6, $7, $8 million to be the head coach, and then you spend all that other money on going to get a big top, like the biggest name offense coordinator out there. You can make a case for it. Again, it's not likely. Most of these programs want to go out and make the big splash hire, but it's not the craziest thought. Basehead says just hire Durkin. Durkin, longtime SEC coach, knows the landscape, plus he can coach. That's, again, I'm all for that, making an argument. Now we'll see what it looks like over these next couple of weeks. Oklahoma fans, you have to forfeit all their wins since every team was warned not to do any illegal plays. Good luck with that. The Auburn administration could tear up a steel ball with a bag of marshmallows. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where Auburn goes with this next hiring, because this is what happens: is you see the drama over at LSU, you see the drama now over at Auburn, and of course, what outsiders like to say is, who wants to go into that mess? Who wants to go? The last couple coaches at Auburn have failed. Who's to say the next guy's not going to fail? So I get it why some fans might have those reactions. But real quick, we'll step aside real quick. When we return, we will get into who are some of the names that are out there. I'll give you a couple of names to watch for in the hunt for Auburn's next head coach in just a second. Hey, first, want to remind you guys about our friends over at Game Time. If you guys have been thinking about buying tickets to a game, if you're an Auburn fan, you want to go see Auburn play, perhaps the Iron Bowl later this year, you can get tickets over at Game Time. It is, you pull up the Game Time app, just a couple of taps, you're going to see amazing deals. I'm talking your favorite college football games as low as $25. It is the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices. And it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way you're going to buy tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. If you've never used them before, download the Game Time app, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONCollege, get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, as promo code LOCKEDONCollege, get $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. All right, so dive back into it. If you're just catching up, Hugh Freeze officially fired over at Auburn. We've been having a lot of you guys chiming in on the comments as we're live. If Auburn wants to do something, offer Saban $20 million a year to be head coach. I joked about that on our squad show earlier. You know, LSU, it was kind of a fun thing to kick around because obviously Saban won a championship there 20 plus years ago. But again, like I've said, every time the Auburn jobs come open, it's been a funny kind of kicking around. Well, Saban is actually available. He is not coaching currently. He's doing media. And yes, most people will say Saban's not going anywhere. He's happy on game day. He's got no pressure of coaching and all this. But there's always the fun thing to kick around. What if, what if you gave him an offer he couldn't refuse? I think that'd be one of the funniest storylines ever. Saban signs a 2-year deal with Auburn, the rival. He wouldn't do it. There was a statue of him on Alabama's campus. He wouldn't do it. But it is a funny thing to kick around. Chris says most of these big-time coordinators are now head coaches. True. If you prove yourself as a good OCDC, you're getting a head coaching job. So that's why it's not crazy to think of DJ Durkin as getting a full-time job. If an SEC team gives Eric Morris a job, that would be dangerous. And now Auburn will want Kiffin. No doubt. I mean, it's one of those things. It's Lane's name is going to be floated around for all three of these jobs: LSU, Florida, and Auburn. I think you take Arkansas out. No offense to Arkansas, I just don't think Lane. Lane's doing a great job at Ole Miss. People might ask, why is Auburn, LSU, or Florida an upgrade for him? Well, one, he is, we were talking with an Ole Miss fan yesterday about this. What has he done at Ole Miss? He's in line to make the playoff this year, but this will be the first time he makes the playoff at Ole Miss. He was supposed to do it last year, and he underachieved. He's never been to Atlanta. He's never won the SEC West when that was a thing. Never won the SEC, period. So for people who are like, why would Lane leave Ole Miss? He's doing a great job there. 10-win seasons are awesome, but he also hasn't really done anything yet. Now, again, this postseason, he's going to make the playoff, most likely. We'll see what Ole Miss does. Maybe they go on a postseason run, win a bunch of games, and that will certainly be a great accomplishment. And you can pat him on the back and say, of course, you're doing great at Ole Miss. Why would you leave here? But it just feels like, and I put all these programs in the same boat. LSU, Florida, and Auburn, to me, are all that second-tier program right behind Georgia and Alabama. Georgia and Alabama, expectation of those schools is to be making the playoff every year and compete for a national championship every year. Auburn, Florida, and LSU, to me, are once every 5 years we should be competing for a championship. I just think that should be the standard. And for a while there, Auburn was kind of in that boat. And then they fell off. Let's see. The dark years of Auburn, certainly not the great years of Auburn. Do we think Kelly and Freeze and Franklin forgot how to coach? Or do we think there's something else going on? I think there's a bunch of different things. I think Brian Kelly kind of got complacent, didn't do everything he needed to do at LSU. I think James Franklin, he didn't have his teams, as good as they were, could never get over the hump, it felt like, and beat the Ohio States and the Michigans, like the big games. He could win all the small games, couldn't win the big games. And Brian Kelly, won some big games, but not a ton. And with Hugh, I almost think the offense just didn't, like the games changed, the games evolved, and his play calling hasn't, because he had talent. Let's see. So let's talk candidates. We've got Eric Morris. Somebody mentioned in the chat already about he's at North Texas doing a fantastic job. This guy says, how about the Georgia Tech job, coach with Durkin? Yeah, Brent Key's done a phenomenal job there. I do think somebody had mentioned he's a Georgia Tech alum, so those are always tricky. Does a guy want to leave where he's happy and doing really well? Let's see. Very good coaches. Absolutely. Their schedule isn't that great either. Reset for the next failure. Auburn is doomed to live in the shadows for eternity. That's a tough one. Jason says Josh McDaniels. I don't know about that one. 20 million, Saban would be there. Maybe. You want to dig up 20 million a year? Sure. Oh, yeah, Saban. Where is it? Oh, yeah, Saban to Auburn is a funny thing to kick around. Poor Auburn's are screwed. It's a new era. We need a new era OC with DJ. That's the big one is can you hang on to DJ Durkin through a search and give him, you almost have to, if he's not going to be the head coach, like the season ends and you decide, all right, we're not going to hire Durkin, but we'd love to keep him. You're going to have to tell that whoever that new coach is, say, hey, look, and it'd have to be an offensive-minded guy, right? Like offensive-minded head coach, and then have some guarantees in place that you could tell DJ Durkin, you're going to be the head coach, the assistant head coach in waiting. I don't know, whatever you want to do, and you're going to have to give him a big raise. Again, he's already one of the highest paid coordinators out there, but you'd have to pay him even more. All right, let's get to I was just kind of skimming through some of the articles on names that people were kicking around for the next Auburn head coach. Alex Golesh at South Florida. I think Alex is a great offensive mind, comes from the Josh Heupel coaching tree. USF has had some great offenses there. Byron Brown has been great for them at quarterback. So Alex Golesh is a name I would certainly kick around if I'm Auburn. It's not like I don't think people are going to be running to sign up for season tickets if you know Alex Golesh as the head coach, but that is a big name that certainly, or a name that could be very good at Auburn. At least you would have good offenses. That's been the problem with Auburn these last couple of years. Has been the offense has not been up to par. Brent Key. Again, this article says former Tech O-lineman may not be going anywhere, but he did spend 3 years at Alabama on Nick Saban's staff, so he knows the state would bring a high degree of professionalism at a crucial moment for the program. I agree with that one. Again, is everyone running for their checkbook for Brent Key? Probably not, but the proof is in the pudding. Somebody was asking me about a fit at an LSU, and I'm like, forget the word fit. Fit's overrated. Can you win? That's the bottom line. If you win, you're fit anywhere. Kalen DeBoer, what was the stink made when Bama hired him? Not a guy from the South. He ain't from the South. This guy was at Washington and Indiana and all this stuff. Kalen DeBoer's winning games at Alabama. Guess what? They don't give a damn about fit. It's about winning games. This article has Rhett Lashley at SMU. Yes, he just signed an extension to stay there, but young offensive-minded coach, much like Golesh, Power 4 experience, college football playoff berth on his resume. Like I said, signed an extension with the Mustangs last week, but Auburn decides he's the guy. You got to consider it. Manny Diaz at Duke. Obviously, he's the defensive-minded guy. That's almost like, again, if you were going to go hire Manny Diaz, I would just make DJ Durkin the head coach. That's kind of birds of the feather, kind of same thing. Kenny Dillingham. I do like Kenny Dillingham a lot. Obviously, he was he had a stop at Auburn in his career and was offense coordinator at Florida State and Oregon before landing his current job at his alma mater. He seems to be very happy at Arizona State. He's also like early 30s. He's super young and I think hungry, and I think that'd be a heck of a I think if Kenny Dillingham goes to an SEC job, I think that team is in great position to make some noise down the road because I think he can recruit. I think he can do all those things. Dan Mullen is a very funny one that they floated out here. Obviously, he's off to a good start at UNLV. Deeply experienced, knows how to operate in the SEC. But again, that feels like if you're Auburn, I wouldn't be like Dan Mullen. I give him a 3-year deal. Like I'm not giving that man 5, 6, 7-year deal. Like that's almost like you wish they had called Mullen when he was available. If Freeze have had some balls to say, I can't coach offense anymore, I got to go get a name, like that would have been the guy to hire, last year. Like make Dan Mullen the OC under Hugh Freeze, and maybe that could have worked. But Dan Mullen's the head coach. I don't know. It seems like a tough one to sell. John Summerall at Tulane, that is definitely one that is I think his name is going to be floated for all these jobs. I think John Summerall's name is going to float for Arkansas, Auburn, Florida, and LSU. I think he can honestly have his pick of any of those right now. Played for Kentucky, coached there, and smart enough to realize Auburn is in a much better position overall than some of these other. If he was holding out hope for Mark Stoops out of Kentucky, John Summerall would, like he's one that if you're Auburn and you're sold he's the guy, you got to go steal him now. Like you almost have to go jump in front of LSU, jump in front of Kentucky in line and say, hey, you're our guy. Let's lock in. James Franklin is one on this list. Says disgruntled Auburn fans might point to Franklin's poor record against ranked teams, the fact he never truly developed an elite quarterback, the way the Nittany Lions disintegrated in his final season. Valid points, but Franklin won 24 games over 3 seasons at Vanderbilt. If he could deliver a coherent plan for how to maximize all the NIL offerings at Auburn, he'd be a smash hit hire. I like James Franklin. Like he's a good coach. He's just not a great coach. So if you're Auburn and you think you can't find a great coach out there or a great up-and-comer, I think you'd do worse than James Franklin. I think James Franklin would be fine there. But that's the problem is him coming up short in all those big games. In the SEC, every week is a big game. So, is he a 500 coach? We'll see. And then lastly, this is a USA Today article. They list Urban Meyer. They said if you could hire Urban, you could sell it, stomach it, grin it, and bear it, you should do it. The drawbacks are obvious, but so are the results. Meyer has shown no legitimate interest in getting back into coaching, left coaching before NIL and the House settlement transformed the sport. But if you're Auburn, make the phone call. So that is, those are some of the names being floated out there. Let's see. Auburn gets elite talent recruiting. Right head coach will have them at the top of the SEC again. Yeah, I mean, nobody ever said Hugh couldn't recruit. Hugh was great at recruiting. Now, this past cycle, not so much for the 2026 class coming up. Spent a lot of time on the golf course this offseason as that, every SEC school was adding big-time recruits here. Look at Auburn. What are you guys doing? But previous to this year, the last couple of recruiting classes have been very good. People making decisions at Auburn always pick their buddies. Yeah, I hope they don't pick their buddies. I think James Franklin would be successful at Auburn. I agree. Finally, it's about time. Auburn deserves better. Bob Chesney is my very head coach. He'll take over P4 program win, but Auburn would certainly not fire him. More likely for John Summerall. They need some young offensive-minded guy that's ready to go to work 24/7 or recruit nonstop. Neon Dion, come on over. It is not going well for Deion Sanders up at Colorado. I'll tell you that. James Franklin to Auburn would probably make sense. I agree. You better go get him, though, because there were rumblings a few days ago that the Virginia Tech job was kind of the front runner for Franklin. And honestly, the SEC's tough. He might be looking at it going, hey, it's easier to win at the ACC. I'll go with Virginia Tech. Give Durkin a chance. I think they will. No to Summerall Franklin. Stop saying Summer. I said John Summerall. When you say it quick, it sounds like Pat Summerall. Mike Bobo, is Eli a real possibility? I think Eli Drinkwitz is open to any job that's going to pay him more. And it's nothing against Mizzou. I just think Mizzou is a little bit limited. Think of game days. And that's where I think when I think of with Lane Kiffin and Eli. I'm not trying to take a shot at the Missouri or Ole Miss programs, but go look at those stadiums on Saturday night at Auburn, at LSU, and at Florida. Those are different animals, dude. That's a different cat, at those schools. Like, we just had last week Lane begging Ole Miss fans to buy tickets. He was like, oh, it's still not a sellout against South Carolina. You guys going to go buy those tickets? I think Eli Drinkwitz kind of has that at Mizzou. Again, Mizzou fans have rallied. They've supported him. It's been a great run there. But it's almost like a training, like Mizzou, you're training for the big time. And I think the big time is the atmosphere at an Auburn and LSU and a Florida. I think Eli Drinkwitz would consider either of those if given the chance. We will never get Franklin or Summerall. We need Yellowwood out of the way first before we hire a new coach. Well, problem, buddy, is Yellowwood is cutting the checks. So that's the big problem there. Get rich, and then you can make those decisions. Auburn needs to get a traditional offense, get away from this hurry-up jet sweep crap. Got all those receivers not use them. I agree, man. Well, it was like most of this year was like run the football. They weren't running the football enough with a top 5 rusher in the SEC, and yet, even with all those 5-star receivers, they couldn't get him the football. Cam Coleman, you spent a ton on Eric Singleton in the portal to get him. He's barely catching any balls. They will hire Gus back. They will not hire Gus back. Eli not leaving to go to Auburn. He hates that program. Again, money talks. I'd take a look at Alex Golish. I agree. MIZ got plenty of money. Yeah, I guess so. But like I said, the big-time program. Can Eli Drinkwitz win a championship at Mizzou? He has not even made the playoff with Mizzou. Can he do it at a bigger school? John Gruden, I would pass on the John Gruden. Gruden is an NFL guy. Put him on the staff, sure, but you need somebody that understands the new college football world. Yeah, I almost wonder Gruden would be like a better Well, put it this way. Gruden, you can make your head coach, but he'd have to be a figurehead. Like, you'd have to have a great GM that's doing all the NIL and all that, and great OC, great DC. It's kind of what Dion was at Jackson State and then at Colorado. He's kind of like the figurehead overseeing everything. Who the hell wants to trash their coaching group by coming to Auburn? Again, that's what I say. It's a tough sell right now. It came down to Freeze couldn't call any offensive plays. Agree. Number one, Durkin or some other buddy of Auburn boosters. I know you won't go to Auburn, but is Brian Hartline a head coaching option? That's what some folks at Kentucky are hoping for, because Mike Hartline's brother is an assistant at Kentucky, and there's some thought that maybe they could get him over to Kentucky if he wanted to take that next step. Rhett Lashley, again, just signed the extension at SMU. How much? I'd be curious to go read the inner workings of what's his buyout, because I bet it includes a lot more money to get him out of SMU now. Hire Brian Kelly. That would be pretty damn hilarious. In fact, somebody was floating it out to me. Could we just play musical chairs here where, like, Sam Pittman goes to Florida, Billy Napier goes to LSU, like, just everybody just kind of swaps up. Have Hugh Freeze go to Arkansas. Sure, why not? Brian Kelly's a good head coach. He's the same thing as James Franklin. Really good head coach. Just couldn't put it all together and couldn't win, when it came down to it, couldn't win some big games. How do you hire Gruden after the Belichick debacle? Well, I think at least Gruden would be really, I would love to see him as a college recruiter. Because think of how good he is, when they used to do the quarterback room where he had the quarterback in there. I thought he was always good on Monday Night Football with Mike Tirico. He always brings energy. Those unboxing YouTube videos he does at Barstool and all that. Like, I think Gruden, you put him in front of a room, he's going to fire you up. If everybody saw the Hard Knocks years ago when he was at Tampa or the Raiders, wherever it was, like, Gruden's a great personality, a great motivator, it seems like, and could sell, I think, recruits. Question is, can he win on game day? That was, especially his last couple stints in the NFL didn't go very well. God, no, not Resh. What's wrong with Ray Lashley? He got SMU to the playoff last year. Charles Kelly or Cadillac? I think the Cadillac train has sailed. Don't know why anyone would want to coach at Auburn. The program is controlled by a handful of boosters. All these schools are ran by big booster people. Brian Kelly is not motivated. $800,000 a week buyout. Jeremy Pruitt. Don't think that one's going to happen. Don't think Pruitt can coach. He has some kind of stipulation in his contract. Some FCS up-and-comer. I think that's the path to go, man. I think you go get, and Brian keeps throwing in Eric Morris. Again, Eric Morris done a fantastic job. I mean, who had the North Texas Mean Green on their radar prior to his getting there? So, yeah, it's I think that's kind of the name that you might want to start looking at. I think the Auburn. I think the Tulane coach John Sumrall is going to be up for a lot of these jobs in the SEC, but I think you got to look at Alex Golish and Eric Morris. I think that's where we need to be talking for some of these jobs, like Florida, LSU, and even Arkansas, and Auburn. I think getting that big sexy name for $100 million is just. I think we're moving away from that in college football with all the buyout money everybody is having to pay. Yeah, Pruitt has already been approved by the SEC to coach. Arkansas is next for head coach. Chris Lowe says new Auburn head football coach will be the Tigers' fourth in 7 years with a total of $52.5 million in buyout money paid to 3 coaches not to work there. Call it buyout U. That's where I think if you're Auburn, if you're one of the decision makers at Auburn, you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, look, we've missed on the last few hires. Are we the problem? Like, do we need to bring in somebody else to make this hire? Because clearly our decision maker is not great. Chris says Coach O, again, not correct. He won a championship at LSU. Here's the problem. And we were going back through the track record. Do you know that the day LSU won the national championship with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, all those guys, Coach O was 40-9 as LSU head coach. or it was like 42-9, 40, and it was something like that. And then he proceeded the next 2 years to go. I think it was 5-5 in the COVID year, and then 6-6 the next year. Those 2 years, it was like he got fat and happy. He won the championship, and then everything that led up to him building that championship team, he just let kind of go out the window. I think you make a case. Ogeron has been out of the game a couple of years now. He comes back ready and has a plan. Again, that plan may only work for 2 years, but go get a hot offensive coordinator. Obviously he can have some input into the defense and recruit. And again, recruiting, the old school recruiting kind of out the window. You're going to have to give them money, which Auburn obviously gave Hugh Freeze a ton to play with in NIL and recruiting. But I think you could do a lot worse than a Coach O. But again, I would have to have that guarantee from him that he knows what he did wrong those last 2 years at LSU and get back to being that guy that he was, those first few years. Let's see. Nick Saban, come on down. I'm available. Never lost a game in NCAA. Hey, look, with esports were becoming a thing a few years ago. Maybe we get to a point where a college eventually hires a kid off his couch from playing video games. Auburn should also consider Brennan Marion, UNLV OC. Eric Morris with DJ Durkin would be scary. Quarterback would be fixed. No doubt on that. Morris is old school air raid. Think Mike Leach. Auburn should get Bo Jackson. Dan Mullen to Auburn. That's the ticket. Hey, I'm just there was a report out there. Somebody threw his name out there. Great quarterback coach. Woodward sabotaged Coach O. He wasn't given the ability to hire assistants. That stuff don't work in the SEC. All right, fellas, we will leave it there. Just kind of like I said, wanted to hop on here, get some instant reaction to Hugh Freeze being out at Auburn. $15.8 million buyout. DJ Durkin takes over as OC for Vanderbilt for Auburn. What's up next for Auburn? They will be at Vanderbilt next weekend. Vanderbilt in a dire spot now because they have 2 losses. If they want to get in there and make the playoffs still, they got to win out. So this is a big one for Vandy. But that DJ Durkin defense has been very good. I think Auburn shouldn't have a problem with Mercer at home. And then, of course, the Iron Bowl with Alabama. So at 4-5, I'm going to give Auburn the win over Mercer. They have to win one of these next 2 if they want to get to a bowl game. And I get it. That's who wants to make it to a bowl game. That's what Hugh said when he was on the golf course this offseason. He said, yeah, I understand. The goal is to make a bowl. We want to get back to a bowl game. Expectations were higher than that, Hugh. Maybe that's why you were sitting here unemployed today. Does Hugh enter the race for governor now? That is a good question. Tommy Tuberville out there and doing his thing. So that's going to do it, guys. Appreciate you guys for checking us out. Remember to subscribe to Locked On SEC if you haven't. We're here for you 5 days a week talking all things Southeastern Conference and plenty more to unfold with the Auburn drama.